It's a Tuesday. That's the thing nobody tells you. The day the Dark Lord returns, you are standing in a queue at the apothecary on Diagon Alley, waiting to pick up a potion order, and the woman in front of you is complaining about the price of boomslaying skin, and the clerk is nodding with the practiced patience of someone who has been nodded at all day, and the world is exactly as ordinary as it has been for 14 years. Then your arm catches fire. Not fire. The word for it doesn't exist in any language you know. It starts in the mark and moves inward, through the muscle, into the bone, and what it carries isn't just pain, it carries information. He is back. He is calling. He is calling every marked follower at once, across every distance, through a piece of magic burned into your forearm 3 years ago, on a night you have never told anyone about. The potion order falls from your hands. The woman in front of you turns around. You are already gone. You knew this day was coming. You told yourself you were prepared for it. You told yourself that every year with the specific conviction of someone who has been waiting long enough that the waiting starts to feel like the point. The ministry position, the intelligence gathered quietly across years, the double life maintained with a discipline that only people waiting for something specific are capable of. All of it was preparation. All of it was pointing here. Nobody is prepared when it actually happens. You can rehearse the idea of a thing for years and still have the reality land differently than any of the rehearsals. You can rehearse the idea of a thing for years and still have the reality of it land differently than any of the rehearsals. The rehearsals are clean. They don't have the smell of cold earth or the weight of 30 people breathing in synchronized silence or the specific quality of pain that travels through a mark that has gone from waiting to active in the space of a heartbeat. The mark has been deep red for months, not the faint pink it spent years as after Godric's Hollow. Darker, alive, a color that has been changing in small increments the way a wound changes color when something underneath it starts to move. You've been watching it every morning the way your father taught you to watch it, the way he explained the system when you were young in the same tone he used for everything important. Matter of fact, unhurried, as if the knowledge was simply yours by inheritance. The mark fades when he weakens. It darkens when he strengthens. When it goes black, you go to him. No delay, no preparation. You go. You've been waiting for black for months. What hits you in the apothecary is beyond black. It is a burning so total that it reorganizes your entire nervous system in the space of a single heartbeat. Everything you were thinking about falls away instantly and leaves exactly one thought standing, clear as anything you've ever known. He is calling. You are moving before the decision forms. You disapparate off the apothecary floor mid-step, and the woman who was complaining about boomslang skin will spend the next 10 minutes telling the clerk what she thinks she saw, and the clerk will tell her she's mistaken, and in 6 hours, neither of them will be able to agree on what happened, and none of it will matter at all. The graveyard in Little Hangleton is cold and smells of turned earth and old magic. You arrive in a circle of perhaps 30 others, all masked, all still, all oriented toward the same point with the attention of people who have been waiting a long time for something and have just understood that the wait is over. Some you recognize despite the masks. Posture, build, the way certain people hold themselves when the situation demands seriousness. You've spent years learning to read these things, in ministry corridors, in careful meetings in careful places, in all the patient work of a life lived at an angle. Others you don't know. All of them arrived the same way you did, summoned across whatever distance, mid-whatever, by a burning that overrode everything else in an instant. Nobody speaks. There is an understanding in the circle that speaking would be wrong. Not forbidden, just wrong, the way certain things are wrong before anyone has to say so. You stand and you look at the center and you wait, the way you have been waiting for years, except that this waiting has a visible endpoint now, and the others feel it too. And the silence of 30 people holding their breath simultaneously has a weight to it that the cold air amplifies. At the center of the circle stands a large stone cauldron, old and dark and still steaming faintly at the rim. Pettigrew attends it. The silver hand catches the moonlight and you know that hand. know what it replaced and why, and the price paid to receive it. And there is something in the cauldron, something that a moment ago was not fully present in the world and is becoming so, piece by piece, assembling itself from components that have no right to produce this outcome. You watch Voldemort step out of it. The body is new, constructed from bone and blood and magic through a ritual that should not work and worked. He is thin in the way of something poured into a container slightly too small for it, the thinness of extreme hunger, of something that has been surviving on less than it requires for a very long time, and is only now being given what it needs. He is pale past any ordinary pallor, past illness, past what skin does in normal circumstances. Pale in a way that suggests the body is less important to what inhabits it than bodies usually are. He moves to the center of the circle and the graveyard reorganizes itself around him, the way a room reorganizes when someone enters it who is used to rooms reorganizing. Every person in the circle shifts almost imperceptibly. Not backward, not in fear exactly, more the way people shift when something with gravitational presence enters a space and the surrounding elements find their new orientation. 14 years gone. Standing 3 meters away from you now, wand in hand, present in the world in a way he hasn't been since before you received the mark, since before the years of waiting, since before the careful ministry career and the patient intelligence work, and the double life you've maintained through every season. He looks at the circle, he takes it in. He raises his wand and sends the dark mark blazing into the sky above you, the great emerald skull, the serpent erupting from its jaw, hanging in the dark over Little Hangleton like a signal fire visible to anyone who knows what it means. The skull's eyes are hollow, and the light from them falls across the circle and across your mask, and across the graveyard headstones, and across the boy you hadn't focused on yet, tied to one of them, watching. Then Voldemort turns to the circle and begins to move through it. You have rehearsed this moment in your head more times than you've told yourself you have. What you would say, how you would stand, whether the years of service from a distance, the intelligence, the ministry access, the patience, would look like loyalty or like convenient distance when finally examined up close. You don't know how much he knows about what you've done in his absence. You don't know what he can read in a face or behind it. You know his capabilities exceed what most wizards understand. You know that is the point. He reaches you. The silence between you lasts 3 seconds. You count them without meaning to, the way you count anything when you need your mind occupied. He looks at you with eyes that carry no warmth and no hostility, simply the pure attention of something that has never needed to perform an emotion for an audience. He is not reading your expression. He is reading something underneath expression, some residue of what you are and what you've done, accessible to him directly, without the interference of words or face or the stories people tell about themselves. Something in you braces for judgment. He moves on. You let out a breath slowly enough that no one around you hears it. The people who didn't come, the ones who build their quiet lives after Godric's Hollow, who shook ministry hands and told imperious stories, and waited for everything to settle into something they could live inside comfortably, he names some of them, not all, enough. He speaks about them in a tone that makes the cold air feel closer, that makes 30 yards of graveyard feel like a small room. You think about a man you know, sat near you at a ministry function 3 years ago, pureblood, careful career, a mark you caught a glimpse of when his sleeve shifted at an inconvenient moment. He didn't come tonight. You wonder if he felt the burning and chose something different, or if there was nothing to feel anymore, the mark too faded, the connection too long neglected. You set the thought down. That kind of wondering goes nowhere useful from here. Voldemort punishes Pettigrew for something. You don't see what, only hear the sound of it and the particular quality of silence that follows in the circle. You keep your eyes forward. Looking is a choice. Some choices compound. He acknowledges a handful of others, brief, significant. In this circle, his attention functions as the only currency that matters. Then he speaks about what's coming, the ministry's annihilation, Fudge's commitment to the lie, the Daily Prophet's careful coverage of a world that is about to change whether the prophet covers it or not. He speaks about all of this as a temporary misunderstanding between the world and its own future, and his voice carries the specific certainty of someone for whom things have always eventually resolved in their direction. You believe him. You have believed versions of this for years. Standing in the graveyard, with the mark still warm from the summons, you feel the pull of it. The reason you waited, the reason you maintained the performances and the patience and the double life. He is right that the denial won't last. He is right that the war has already begun, whether the ministry knows it yet or not. Then he raises his wand toward Harry Potter. The boy is tied to the headstone 20 yards away. You registered him when you arrived. Impossible not to. The boy who lived. The name that has orbited Voldemort's entire return like a debt that hasn't been collected. He is 17 and slight, and he is looking at Voldemort the way people look at things they've already made their peace with, which is not the expression you expected. The killing curse connects, and something happens that you have no explanation for. The wands lock, a beam of gold against green, held rigid between them, straining. And from the point of connection, something begins to emerge. Shapes, translucent, luminous in the dark, stepping backward out of Voldemort's wand in sequence. A woman, a man, others, voices, echoes of people killed with that wand, pulled back briefly into something like presence. The boy breaks the connection, grabs the Triwizard Cup, disapparates with his friend's body. He is gone. The circle is quiet in a way that circles are only quiet when something has not gone as planned. Voldemort stands at the center of it, wand in hand, looking at the space where Potter was. The surface composure is intact. You've been in enough rooms with him to read the architecture of it. But underneath, in the particular quality of his stillness, something is working through an unexpected variable. Something occurred in the graveyard that he is not, in this moment, certain how to account for. This will not last. It never does. He will find the explanation, develop the counter, move forward with a certainty fully reassembled. But for 30 seconds in Little Hangleton, you have witnessed something almost no one else alive can say they've witnessed. Voldemort encountering something he doesn't fully understand yet. You file it away. You've spent years at the ministry learning that the anomalies in powerful systems are the things worth remembering. He dismisses the circle. You were summoned, you came, you bore witness. What comes next will arrive through the mark and the channels you've spent years preparing. For now, dismissed. You disapparate back into your Tuesday. Your flat is dark. You don't turn on the lights. You sit and you feel the mark against your palm. Warm, active, pulsing with a regularity it hasn't had since the night you received it. He is in the world. The ministry doesn't know it yet. The woman at the apothecary doesn't know it. The Daily Prophet doesn't know it. But you know it, in your arm, in your blood, in the residue of a summons that moved through you like a current and deposited you in a graveyard to witness a resurrection that 14 years of careful ministry politics never quite made real the way tonight made it real. You think about the graveyard, not the big things, Voldemort, the ritual, the circle, the small things, the way the other masked figure stood and didn't speak, the specific quality of the cold, Pettigrew's silver hand in the moonlight, the boy tied to the headstone, watching, with the expression of someone who had already made their accounting. You think about the wands locking together, the gold and green, the shapes that emerge from that connection. You don't have an explanation for what happened there. In years of preparation and study, you've never encountered anything like it. And in this moment, sitting in the dark with your hand against the mark, you are aware that the gap in your understanding is significant. You think about the 30 seconds of silence after Potter disappeared, what you saw in Voldemort's stillness, what it means. Then you set those thoughts down at the angle where they don't require a response, which is a skill you've spent years developing and are very good at. The night outside your window is quiet. Diagonal Alley sleeps. The wizarding world goes about whatever it does after 10 o'clock on a Tuesday in June, entirely unaware that its future changed shape 2 hours ago in a graveyard in Yorkshire. You sit in the dark and you feel the mark pulse, and you let the quiet be quiet, and you begin to think about what comes next. The next morning, you go to work at the ministry. You nod at colleagues in the corridor. You attend a briefing about regulation updates and retain nothing. You eat lunch at your desk. You look exactly as normal as you have looked every day for the past 3 years. You are very good at this. Fudge gives his statement to the Daily Prophet in the afternoon. He who must not be named has not returned. The events at the Triwizard Tournament were a tragic accident involving a powerful and potentially unstable magical artifact. Harry Potter's account is the confused testimony of a traumatized and grieving boy, and the Ministry extends its deepest sympathies to the Diggory family. The Ministry is investigating. There is no cause for alarm. He says all of this with the full weight of institutional certainty behind it. The particular confidence of a man who has decided what reality is and is now simply waiting for reality to agree. You read it twice at your desk. You think about the graveyard, the circle, the mark going from deep red to black in the space of a heartbeat, and the feeling of being pulled across Yorkshire by something in your blood. Then you look at Fudge's photograph on the front page, smiling, flanked by ministry officials, and you think about how many people will read this statement tonight and believe it, and what it means for the months ahead that the denial has already begun at the highest level. It means you have time. It means the gap between what is true and what the ministry is willing to acknowledge will stay open long enough to be useful. This is very good news for you. The mark under your sleeve pulses, faint and steady. You fold the newspaper, drop it in the bin, finish your afternoon. At 6 o'clock, you walk through the ministry atrium, past the fountain of magical brethren, the golden witch and wizard and centaur and goblin and house elf in their eternal arrangement of harmony, and you think about the graveyard, about the circle, about the 3 seconds of silence and what Voldemort read in you, about the boy who disappeared when he should not have been able to. You apparate home. The flat is still dark. You still don't turn on the lights. You sit in the same chair as last night. The city outside is quiet in the specific way of a city that doesn't know yet. Millions of people, wizarding and muggle alike, going about their Wednesday evening, cooking dinner, reading, putting children to bed, entirely without knowledge that the shape of their world changed last night in a graveyard in Yorkshire, and the newspaper on their doorstep is lying to them about it. The mark pulses once under your sleeve, faint and steady. The war has started. The ministry doesn't know it yet. The newspaper is printing that denial on the front page, and Cornelius Fudge will repeat it in every corridor and briefing room until the weight of evidence becomes impossible to carry. That is fine. The denial buys time. Time is exactly what you need. By the time anyone in that building understands what has truly begun, you will already be exactly where you need to be. That is what the years were for. That is what you are.